The Odyssey's spine vibrated with a low, constant thrum beneath Alara's boots. Beyond the viewport, the nebula's ethereal gas clouds, a tapestry of amethyst and sapphire, offered a breathtaking yet terrifying tableau to their intrusion. "Status report, Commander," she called, her voice cutting through the sudden silence that had descended since their breach of the prohibited zone. Jax, his fingers a blur across the holographic console, didn't immediately respond. "Shields at 98. Minor atmospheric interference, negligible. Long-range scans remain stubbornly blank." He finally met her gaze, a worried crease marring his usually cheerful face. "It's like we're encased. No external signals penetrating, nothing escaping." A cold knot tightened in Alara's gut. "Keep pushing, Jax. We need to know what's out there. Or, more unsettlingly, what's not." She turned to Lena, who meticulously monitored the ship's internal diagnostics. "Any internal anomalies, Lena?" Lena shook her head, her dark braid swaying. "All systems nominal, Captain. Oxygen stable, power grid steady. Although, I'm picking up a faint energy signature in Cargo Bay 3. It's barely a whisper, but it's present." "Energy signature?" Alara questioned, her eyes narrowing. They hadn't detected anything of the sort during their initial sweep of the derelict. "Can you pinpoint it?" Lena tapped a few more keys, the holographic display shifting. "Negative, it's unlike anything in our database. Extremely low power, yet consistent. And it's not localized. It emanates from the entire bay, a diffused field." Just then, a shrill, insistent beeping pierced the bridge's quiet. On Jax's console, a new alert flashed, a stark, blinking red light. It pulsed with a rhythmic urgency that sent a jolt of adrenaline through Alara. "What is it, Jax?" Her voice was sharper than she intended. His face was grim. "Proximity alert. Extremely small object, high velocity, heading directly for us." His fingers flew, desperate to acquire a lock, to identify the incoming threat. It just materialized, no precursor, no long-range detection. The blinking red light intensified its frantic cadence. The ship's internal gyros whined, straining against an unseen force. Alara gripped the captain's chair armrest, bracing. "Evasive maneuvers, Jax! Full power to shields!" "Can't!" he yelled, his voice tight with effort. "It's too fast, Captain! Impact in seconds!" A violent shudder ripped through the Odyssey, flinging Lena against her console. Klaxons blared. The lights flickered, casting grotesque shadows across the worried faces on the bridge. Alara fought to maintain her footing, her mind racing. This wasn't a weapon. If it were, they'd be pulverized. This was a message, a very forceful one. "Damage report," Alara demanded, pulling herself upright. The air crackled with the sharp tang of ozone. Lena, her breath coming in ragged gasps, pushed herself away from the console. "Shields down to 60%. Hull compromised starboard section. And the energy signature in Cargo Bay 3 just spiked, Captain. Massively." Alara's eyes fixed on the blinking red light, now accompanied by a new, more ominous warning. A schematic of their ship, with a glowing, pulsing red circle around Cargo Bay 3. They had been hit. And whatever hit them, whatever it was, had gone straight for the one place Lena had just detected an anomalous energy signature. It was too precise to be random. This wasn't just a warning, it was a targeted insertion. "Jax, give me visual on Cargo Bay 3, Alara commanded, her voice calm despite the surrounding chaos. The blinking red light now pulsed not just for proximity, but for the life of their mission, and perhaps their very existence. The Stardust Voyager's core hum intensified, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated through Captain Eva Rostova's very bones. On the holographic display, a stark red line cleaved the starfield, marking the boundary of the Forbidden Zone, a region of space shrouded in ancient warnings and dire consequences. Admiral Thorne's final mandate echoed in the bridge's quiet. "Stay out, Captain. Whatever's in there, it's not worth the risk." Yet, a faint, desperate distress signal had sliced through those official orders, like a laser through steel. Human. "Helm, maintain current trajectory," Eva commanded, her voice a steady counterpoint to the tremor in her gut. Lieutenant Jax, a usually jocular navigator, was unusually subdued, his knuckles stark white against the console. "Sensors, give me anything." "Picking up residual energy signatures, Captain," Ensign Anya replied, her fingers a blur across the touchscreen. "Fading fast, consistent with early model human distress beacons." The invisible demarcation on the main view screen purely theoretical until now, suddenly felt like a tangible barrier. Eva's mind drifted to the missing colony ship, the Hope's Dawn, which had vanished without a trace a cycle prior. Could this be them? A shiver, born not of cold but of profound anticipation, traced its path down her spine. Captain, we're approaching the boundary, Jax reported, his voice strained, automated warning protocols engaging. Chimes filled the bridge, followed by a synthesized declaration. Unauthorized entry detected. Turn back. Eva's jaw tightened. Override all automated protocols, Lieutenant. We're going in. The ship slipped across the invisible threshold, not with a jolt, but with an almost imperceptible shift. The stars outside seemed to momentarily blur, then snapped back into focus, brighter, somehow more vivid. The air on the bridge grew heavy, charged with an unspoken energy, a palpable sense of crossing into the unknown. Suddenly, Anya gasped. Captain, I'm seeing something. Massive energy fluctuations, unlike anything in our databases. And a structure. Not artificial, but organic? Eva leaned forward, her gaze riveted to the main view screen. A colossal living construct began to coalesce from the stellar dust, radiating a soft, opalescent light. It was neither metal nor rock, but pulsed with an inner luminescence, intricate patterns rippling across its surface like living fractals. It was beautiful, terrifying, and profoundly alien. On screen now, Eva ordered. The image zoomed in, revealing delicate tendrils of light extending from the colossal structure, almost like roots reaching into the void. This was no abandoned outpost. This was vibrantly alive. Captain, Jack stammered, we're being hailed. It's not human, and the language, it's unknown, but the syntax is incredibly complex, almost musical. A profound sense of wonder mixed with growing dread settled over Eva. They hadn't just crossed a line in space, they'd stumbled into something far grander than any of them could have imagined. This was the secret, hidden away from the galaxy, thriving in the profound silence of forbidden space. And now they were undeniably part of it. The bridge of the Odyssey hummed with a low thrum that vibrated through Alara's boots. Outside the viewport, the nebula's vibrant hues had given way to a swirling, opaque gray, like a storm front brewing in deep space. Sensors are still returning nothing, Captain, Lieutenant Jax reported, his brow furrowed with a mixture of frustration and unease. It's like we've flown into a cosmic fog bank. Alara leaned forward, studying the blank tactical display. The coordinates for the distress signal, once so clear, now shimmered with an unsettling uncertainty. Maintain current velocity, long-range scans, maximum power. If there's a ship out here, we're going to find it. Her voice, though calm, carried an undercurrent of tension. The forbidden sector was living up to its name, cloaking its secrets in an almost deliberate obscurity. Hours bled into a dull, monotonous vigil. The crew moved with a quiet efficiency, but the strain was palpable. Then, a faint flicker on the auxiliary screen. Captain, faint energy signature bearing 247 Mark 89, Jax announced, his voice tight with renewed focus. It's intermittent, almost like a heartbeat. Alara's gaze sharpened. Can you get a visual? Negative. Still too much interference. The signature is unusual. Extremely high energy, but incredibly localized. It's not like anything in our database. A prickle of unease traced its way down Alara's spine. Unusual was an understatement. The distress signal itself had been anomalous, a blend of ancient and advanced technology. She pictured the small, isolated human colony they were meant to rescue, now seemingly vanished into this cosmic murk. Had they encountered something truly alien? Boost power to all external sensors, Alara commanded. Try to penetrate this interference, and prepare the shuttle for deployment. If we can't see it, we'll have to go look. The decision hung in the air, weighty and perilous. Sending a team into an unknown, sensor-blind zone was a gamble, but the alternative was to abandon the mission. Jax hesitated. Captain, with all due respect, we have no idea what's out there. This could be a trap. Alara met his gaze, her own resolve unwavering. We came here to save lives, Lieutenant. We don't turn back at the first sign of trouble. Prepare an away team. I'll be leading it. A collective gasp rippled through the bridge. Leading an away team herself was an unprecedented move for a captain of her rank, but Alara felt an undeniable pull. This wasn't just about protocol anymore. It was about the chilling silence, the veiled threat that this clouded mystery represented. She had to see it with her own eyes. The Solace, a speck against the swirling nebulae, trembled as it breached the invisible boundary. Klaxons, mercifully muted after the initial jump, still echoed faintly in Alara's ears. She gripped the armrest of her command chair, the metallic tang of fear sharp on her tongue. Through the viewport, the forbidden space, once an ominous blank on their charts, shimmered with an impossible beauty. Stars, usually distant pinpricks, coalesced into intricate, pulsating patterns, forming what looked like vast, interconnected cities of light. "Sensors, report!" she barked, her voice betraying none of her inner turmoil. Gian, hunched over his console, fingers flying, responded, "Reading, impossible energy signatures, Captain. Not natural, too structured." A tremor ran through the deck plates. "Gravitational fluctuations. Something massive just shifted course." A colossal shadow, far larger than anything they'd ever encountered, eclipsed the starfield. It wasn't a ship, not in any sense Alara understood. It was a sprawling, incandescent metropolis, alive with a soft, internal glow, drifting with purpose. Buildings of shimmering, crystalline structures reached towards a central, unidentifiable core, like a blooming flower of light. Arcs of pure energy pulsed between its various districts, and silent craft, like luminous insects, darted along predetermined paths. "It's a city," Liam whispered, his face pale in the console's light. "A city in the sky." "And it's headed straight for us," Gian added, his voice tight. "Collision course, Captain. Less than 5 minutes." Alara's mind raced. Their mission was rescue, not first contact, especially not with a species so advanced they could build entire cities in the void. "Hail them. Any frequency, any protocol, and prepare for evasive maneuvers. If they don't respond, we move." The comms array crackled, but only static answered. The colossal city continued its silent, inexorable approach, growing larger, more detailed, its ethereal architecture revealing impossibly delicate spires and sweeping arcs. It wasn't hostile, not overtly, but its sheer scale was terrifying. It was like a leviathan, oblivious to the plankton in its path. "No response, Captain!" Gian's voice was edged with panic. "Impact in T-minus 90 seconds!" Alara's hand hovered over the evasive thruster controls. They could run, sure, but what if this was their only chance to understand the secrets of this forbidden zone? What if the missing Odyssey crew was here, trapped within this alien marvel? She looked at the faces of her crew. Fear, yes, but also a flicker of awe. This was beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed. "Hold position," Alara ordered, her voice firm, resolute. "Let them come." A collective gasp swept the bridge. The city, now filling their entire viewport, emitted a low, resonant hum that vibrated through the Solace's hull. Thousands of intricate, luminous patterns bloomed across its surface, like eyes slowly opening. They were being observed, analyzed. The silence stretched, pregnant with an unknown judgment. The clang of the airlock closing behind Captain Eva Rostova echoed, a hollow finality in the cavernous docking bay. Around her, the usual bustle of pre-departure checks was absent. No engineers hummed over diagnostics, no cargo handlers shouted manifests. The Vanguard, her sleek hull usually gleaming under the station's artificial suns, felt like a tomb. "Status report, Lieutenant Commander Kalin." Eva's voice, a little too loud in the quiet, cut through the silence. Kalin, usually a bastion of calm, fidgeted with the comms panel on his wrist. "Still nothing, Captain. Main power grid offline. Auxiliary systems are sporadic at best. Life support holding, but barely. And no one's answering." Eva stalked towards the command center hatch, her boots clicking on the polished deck plating. No one? Not a single soul from the Arcturus? The Arcturus, a sister ship, had been their designated refuel and resupply point. Now it floated derelict, a ghostly sentinel. The command center was equally deserted. Screens flickered with static, data streams frozen in time. A half-eaten nutrient bar lay on a console, beside it a forgotten data pad displaying a complex star chart. It looked like someone had simply walked away mid-sentence. "This isn't right," Eva murmured, her gaze sweeping the empty room. No distress call, no evacuation notice. Just gone. A chill, colder than the station's failing environmental controls, snaked down her spine. The air, thin and recycled, carried a faint metallic tang. Kalin finally pulled up a schematic of the Arcturus. "Captain, I'm detecting..." Unusual energy signatures on Deck 7, deep within the research labs, very localized, very intense. Eva frowned. Research labs? I wasn't aware the Arcturus had a deep space research component. Their mission profile was purely logistical. A shudder ran through the station, a low groan of stressed metal. Dust motes danced in the weak emergency lights. What was that? Kalen's hand went to his sidearm. The station's integrity is failing, Eva stated, her voice tight. We need to get off this hulk. But first, Deck 7. Kalen, prep a team, minimal, armed. We're going to find out what happened here. She pulled her own sidearm, the familiar weight a small comfort against the encroaching dread. The empty halls of the Arcturus hummed with a silent question, and Eva Rostova intended to find the answer, no matter how terrifying it might be. Commander Eva Rostova's hand wavered as she reached for the pulsating orb. Its ethereal radiance wasn't the only thing unsettling her. It was the sheer impossibility of its presence. A low-frequency thrum resonated from it, vibrating through the Pioneer's deck plates and into her very marrow. Ensign Jax, typically a rock of composure, stood a respectful distance back, his eyes wide, a flicker of awe, or perhaps trepidation, dancing within their depths. Are you certain, Commander? His voice, a mere breath, cut through the orb's resonant hum. The Cathar logs were explicit. This chamber, this artifact, is proscribed. Eva remembered the frantic, fragmented Cathar warnings they'd intercepted, pleas for the Pioneer to retreat from this sector. Forbidden, yes, but what they'd discovered here, a fully functional, derelict Cathar metropolis silently circling a lifeless sun, hinted at a profounder enigma, and the orb, nestled in the heart of its central temple, was the key. We've ventured beyond proscribed, Jax, she countered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her fingers. We're past the event horizon. This is our purpose, to comprehend. Her fingertips grazed the orb's surface. It felt cool, slick as polished glass, yet the light within intensified, casting shifting shadows across the ancient Cathar glyphs etched into the temple walls. A strange, almost melodic chime echoed, originating from the orb itself. Suddenly, a jolt. Not electrical, but something deeper, more elemental. Images inundated Eva's mind, not static pictures, but a cascading torrent of sensory input. She witnessed a vast, sprawling civilization, not unlike humanity's, yet infinitely more advanced, living in harmony with their environment. She saw them perfecting interstellar travel, not through brute force and combustion, but through a subtle manipulation of space-time itself, a mere whisper of thought bridging light years. Then, the shift. A growing darkness, a silent, encroaching dread. Not a physical enemy, but a creeping entropy, a cosmic weariness. The Cathar, facing an end they couldn't fight, not with weapons, but with the very fabric of existence unraveling. Jax cried her name, his voice distorted, distant. Eva felt a searing heat behind her eyes, the sheer deluge of information threatening to overwhelm her. The orb pulsed erratically now, its light flickering like a dying star. She saw the Cathar's last act, not a desperate flight, but a grand, heartbreaking sacrifice. They had poured their collective consciousness, their entire civilization's knowledge and experience, into this very orb. A seed of life, a final message in a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean, hoping another species, another mind, might one day understand. Not to save them, but to learn, to know. The heat receded, the images fading, leaving behind an echoing sense of profound sorrow and an even deeper clarity. Eva stumbled back, catching herself on Jax's arm. He looked at her, concern etched on his face. Commander, what happened? You zoned out. Eva looked at the orb, its glow now soft, steady, almost mournful. They weren't hiding from us, Jax, she whispered, her voice hoarse. They were hiding for us. A warning, a legacy. The secret of the glowing orb wasn't a weapon or a power source, but a final desperate testament to life and the inevitability of its end, a burden now passed to humanity. The true forbidden knowledge wasn't about what they couldn't do, but what they must grasp about their own place in the vast, indifferent universe. Captain Eva Rostova's fingers drummed a silent rhythm against the console, the hum of the Stardust Seeker's engines a constant, unsettling thrum in the alien quiet of the Forbidden Zone. They had crossed the invisible boundary, a line etched not in space, but in the collective consciousness of the galactic community. Below them, the gas giant Xylos swirled in an impossible palette of violet and emerald, its storms like ancient slow-motion ballets. But it wasn't the planet that held Eva's attention. It was the faint, almost imperceptible energy signature radiating from its upper atmosphere. Confirmed, Commander Kalen. Eva's voice cut through the comms, crisp despite the tension coiling in her gut. The readings matched Dr. Eris's initial analysis. A structure, massive, and cloaked. Kalen's face, usually calm, was etched with a grim determination on the main screen. Cloaked in plain sight for centuries, Captain. Right under everyone's noses, the Sylvan Collective's unexplored sector, indeed. His eyes, usually sharp, seemed to pierce the very fabric of space. Any indications of life signs yet? Negative, replied Lieutenant Jax, his fingers dancing over his own console, a frown deepening on his brow. No standard biological markers, but the energy fluctuations are erratic, like something's powering up, then cutting out. A struggle, maybe? Eva remembered Dr. Aris's frantic notes, the scribbled equations, the desperate pleas for an investigation into the Sylvan Collective's suspicious data gaps. Now, faced with the undeniable reality, a cold dread settled in her stomach. The Sylvans, revered for their technological prowess and supposed benevolence, had been hiding something truly colossal. Suddenly, the ship's warning sirens blared, a jarring cacophony in the sterile bridge. "Incoming!" Jax yelled, his voice strained. "Multiple contacts, emerging from the gas giant's upper atmosphere." On the main viewer, dark, needle-like vessels materialized from the swirling clouds, their surfaces absorbing light, making them almost impossible to track. They moved with an unnatural swiftness, closing the distance to the Stardust Seeker with terrifying speed. Eva's mind raced. These weren't the standard Sylvan patrol craft. These were different, more aggressive, more predatory. "Status report, Jax," Eva commanded, her voice cutting through the alarms. "Shields holding, Captain, but they're hitting us with something I've never seen before. Graviton pulses, disrupting our stabilizers." The Stardust Seeker lurched violently, throwing Eva against her console. A jolt of panic, cold and sharp, pierced through her carefully maintained composure. She gripped the edge of the console, her knuckles white. "Return fire. Target their propulsion systems. Kalen, focus on evasive maneuvers. Do not let them board us." The ship shuddered again, a sickening groan echoing through the hull. This wasn't a warning, this was an attack, and the echoes of fear, long suppressed by duty, began to resonate in the silence between the explosions. The automated docking clamps hissed, a sound that always made Commander Eris's teeth ache. After 6 weeks of near-silent deep space, the mechanical thrum of the Vanguard's return to the solitude was a jarring symphony. He strode onto the primary deck, the faint scent of ozone clinging to his uniform. Kyle, his communications officer, was already there, a nervous energy radiating from his usually placid frame. "Commander, the preliminary scan results are unusual," Kyle began, his voice barely above a whisper. "The anomalies we detected, they're not natural formations. They're structured." Eris felt a familiar knot tighten in his gut. "Elaborate, Kyle, what kind of structure?" He moved to the main console, its holographic display already alive with swirling data. "Too complex for any known species, sir, and they're deep within the forbidden zone, far beyond the containment the Cathar established." Kale gestured, and a zoomed-in projection appeared, geometric patterns, intricate and vast, nestled within a gas giant's swirling atmosphere. It was art on a scale that defied comprehension. Suddenly, a red alert pulsed across the bridge. "Incoming transmission!" another officer called out, her fingers flying across her own console. It's the Cathar, and they don't sound happy." A guttural voice, laced with static and barely contained fury, filled the bridge. "Vanguard, you have violated sacred decrees. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your blasphemy." Eris stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "This is Commander Eris of the Terran Rescue Fleet. We are here on a humanitarian mission. We detected unusual energy signatures and were investigating." He deliberately omitted any mention of the structures. The Cathar voice roared, "Humanitarian mission? You trespass into forbidden space, into the very crucible of creation. Your curiosity will be your undoing. The Cathar ship, a predatory silhouette against the distant stars, began to accelerate. They're powering weapons, Commander. Kael's voice was strained. Eris's gaze flickered to the impossible structures, then to the approaching Cathar vessel. We can't just turn tail, Kael. Not now. Not when we're this close to understanding what's truly out here. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Target their comms array. We need to disable their primary sensor grid, not engage in a fight we can't win. He turned to the helm. Lieutenant Gina, get us between those gas giant rings. Maximum stealth. Let's see how well they hunt in their own sacred territory. A glint, sharp and determined, appeared in Eris's eyes. The hunter was back, and this time the prey was far more complex than any animal. The air in the Pioneer's bridge was thick with the scent of ozone and stale coffee, a familiar perfume of impending crisis. Captain Eva Rostova stared at the main view screen, where the shimmering, impossible construct of the Veil pulsed with an unsettling energy. Beyond it lay the Forbidden Sector, the last known coordinates of the Argo. Beside her, Commander Kalen, his avian features etched with a rare tension, studied the same anomaly. He was a creature of meticulous protocol, and even knew this reckless venture grated on every fiber of his being. Our sensors are still struggling to penetrate it, Kalen reported, his voice a low thrum. The energy fluctuations are unlike anything recorded in Alliance databases. It's artificial, Captain, and immensely powerful. Eva nodded slowly. Powerful enough to hide an entire fleet, or a civilization. Powerful enough to make the Alliance tread lightly for centuries. Her fingers drummed against the armrest of her command chair. What's our operational window looking like? Minimal. The localized gravitational anomalies are increasing. We'll have a stable entry corridor for approximately 7 minutes before the field destabilizes entirely. Exiting will be challenging, to say the least. Kalen met her gaze, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the swirling light of the Veil. Captain, I must reiterate my concerns. This is a direct violation of the Treaty of Xylos. The consequences for the Human-Xylosian Alliance could be catastrophic. And the consequences of abandoning the Argo? Eva countered, her voice low but firm. They're out there, Kalen. We don't leave our own behind. A moment of silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken history and shared burdens. Kalen's feathers ruffled almost imperceptibly, a telltale sign of his internal conflict. He understood. He just wouldn't admit it aloud. Suddenly, a junior comms officer called out, Captain, receiving a highly compressed burst transmission, origin point within the Forbidden Sector, just beyond the Veil, Eva snapped forward. On screen, decrypt and amplify. Static hissed, then a distorted but undeniably human voice broke through. Pioneer, this is Argo. We're here. Trapped. They know we're here. Don't come. The transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by the crackle of interference. A cold dread seeped into Eva's bones. They know we're coming, she murmured, her gaze sweeping from the screen to Kalen. His expression had hardened, the last vestiges of doubt seemingly evaporating. The Argo was still alive, but clearly in dire straits. Prepare for transit, Kalen ordered, his voice ringing with newfound authority. Engage veil breach protocols. Navigation, plot a course for the last known Argo signature. Comms, attempt to re-establish contact, but do not transmit our presence. Eva watched him, a quiet understanding passing between them. No words were needed. The unspoken alliance, forged in the crucible of a desperate mission, was now complete. They were in this together, two species united by a shared purpose and a common enemy, whatever lay beyond the shimmering veil. The Pioneer rumbled, engines spooling up, preparing to plunge into the unknown.